The metallic taste of quantum displacement lingered on Kale's tongue as he materialized in Neo Arcadia. The city's neon glow reflected off his carbon fiber combat suit, its quantum stabilizers still humming from the journey. It was 2389, 40 years after the multiverse collapse had rewritten the rules of physics and reality. Kale checked his quantum chronometer. Local time, 02.37, precisely as calculated. Digital Emperor Kale, the Human Alliance's premier quantum assassin, had never failed a mission. His augmented neural cortex and quantum-enhanced reflexes made him more machine than man, a perfect instrument of death. For 15 years, he had eliminated targets across space-time with cold precision. The Alliance gave him a purpose, a function, and that was all he required. Neo Arcadia, the jewel of Olympus 7, sprawled before him, a city where quantum technology had penetrated every aspect of life. Massive holographic advertisements floated between neoclassical architecture, while quantum-powered vehicles zipped through designated sky lanes. In the upper sectors, the elite enjoyed unlimited access to quantum luxuries. Below, in the quantum slums, those less fortunate scraped by on technological scraps. Kale's quantum communicator pulsed against his wrist. He blinked twice, activating his neural interface to review the mission details again. Target, Professor Leora Hayes. Location, Neo Arcadia, Olympus, Sevens. Offense, suspected treason against the Human Alliance, development of countermeasure technology against quantum operatives. Elimination. Timeline, 72 hours. Intelligence had flagged Professor Hayes as developing something called a human empathy circuit. Technology that could potentially neutralize quantum assassins by forcing them to experience emotional responses. If true, this threatened everything the Alliance had built since the collapse. Kale's orders were clear. Eliminate Hayes and all research data on the human empathy circuit. Simple, efficient, like every other mission. He stepped out from the quantum displacement zone and blended into the sparse, early morning crowds. The first rule of quantum assassination: establish a cover identity before approaching the target. For this mission, he would become Kale Mercer, visiting quantum engineering consultant. The irony of using his real name in a false identity wasn't lost on him. It was a small indulgence he allowed himself, one of the few. While most quantum assassins could traverse space-time, the physics of post-collapse reality imposed strict limitations. Jumps could only occur within specified windows, and the energy required made continuous jumping impossible. Once on assignment, Kale was effectively locked to the local time stream until mission completion. His neural implant mapped the fastest route to his temporary residence, a mid-tier apartment complex in Neo Arcadia's University District. From there, he would begin surveillance on Professor Hayes. Intelligence suggested she worked primarily at the Quantum Sciences Division of the Neo-Arcadian Institute of Technology. The apartment was sparse but sufficient: a bed, basic food synthesizer, and quantum terminal. Kyle performed his arrival protocol, securing the perimeter, establishing escape routes, and setting up passive surveillance nets. Then he cued his neural implants to compile all available data on Professor Leora Hayes. The holographic display materialized before him. Professor Leora Hayes, 37, quantum physicist specializing in consciousness technology interfaces. Born on Earth before the collapse. Relocated to Olympus 7 at age 19. Distinguished academic career with 27 published research papers on quantum consciousness. No known affiliations with anti-alliance groups. An image appeared: a woman with olive skin, curly black hair streaked with silver, and intense green eyes that seemed to look directly through the camera. Kale noted nothing remarkable, just another target. Yet something in her gaze made him pause. There was a quality there that his analytical mind couldn't quite categorize. Determination? Certainly. Intelligence? Obviously. But something else, something his neural enhancements weren't programmed to recognize. Kale dismissed the thought. Irrelevant to the mission parameters. Dawn broke over Neo Arcadia as he began mapping Professor Hayes' routine. The mission clock had started. 71 hours remaining. Professor Leora Hayes loved the early mornings at the Institute. The quantum labs were quiet, the corridors empty, and she could focus without interruption. Her laboratory was her sanctuary, a place where the boundaries between human consciousness and quantum technology blurred into something new and profound. Zin, run simulation sequence Alpha 9 again, please, she said to the hovering robot assistant that managed her laboratory systems. Certainly, Professor. Initializing Alpha 9. Zin's voice was melodic, designed to be soothing rather than mechanical. The robot's sleek silver body housed one of Leora's early prototypes, a rudimentary emotional recognition system that allowed it to respond appropriately to human moods. The holographic display came to life, showing the intricate patterns of the human empathy circuit, her life's work. Most quantum technology operated on cold logic, mathematical precision, and ruthless efficiency. The Human Alliance had embraced these qualities, building their post-collapse civilization on the premise that emotion was inefficient, even dangerous. Leora believed otherwise. Her research suggested that emotion wasn't a weakness but the very foundation of human decision-making. Even the most rational choices were influenced by emotional underpinnings. By developing the empathy circuit, she hoped to bridge the growing gap between humanity and the quantum technology that increasingly controlled their lives. What the Alliance didn't know, what she had carefully kept hidden, was that the circuit was complete. Not just complete, but functional beyond her wildest expectations. And what it revealed about the Alliance's operations had horrified her. The circuit had detected the quantum signatures of Alliance assassins, people transformed into living weapons, their emotional capacities surgically and technologically suppressed. They were used to eliminate political dissidents, scientific competitors, and anyone deemed a threat to Alliance stability. Her circuit could not only detect these assassins, but potentially restore their suppressed emotional connections. It could remind them of their humanity, which, of course, was precisely why the Alliance now wanted her dead. Professor. Zin interrupted her thoughts. External security systems indicate someone has been observing the Institute for approximately 27 minutes. Facial recognition is being actively blocked. Leora felt a chill. They've sent someone already, sooner than I expected. Shall I activate emergency protocols? She shook her head. No, that would only confirm their suspicions. We proceed as planned. Is the secondary lab prepared? Yes, Professor. All essential research has been transferred. And the decoy data? In place. Any intrusion will trigger the quantum encryption sequence, making it appear valuable while revealing nothing of significance. Leora nodded, taking a deep breath. Then we continue our work, and we prepare to meet our visitor. Kale observed the Institute from a calculated distance, his ocular implants zooming in to capture detailed scans of security systems, personnel movements, and potential entry points. His neural processors compiled the data into a three-dimensional tactical assessment that floated in his peripheral vision. Security was substantial but not extraordinary. Standard quantum locks, motion sensors, and identity verification systems. Nothing he hadn't bypassed dozens of times before. More interesting was the pattern of Professor Hayes's movements. Unlike most targets who followed predictable routines, Hayes showed variation, sometimes arriving early, sometimes late, occasionally not appearing for days. This suggested either paranoia or precaution. Either way, it complicated his approach. After 48 hours of surveillance, Kale determined the optimal strategy. Approach Hayes as his cover identity, a visiting quantum engineering consultant seeking collaboration. This would allow him to assess her research directly and determine the threat level of the empathy circuit before elimination. He scheduled a meeting through official channels using Alliance-provided credentials that would withstand scrutiny. The appointment was set for the following morning, exactly at his mission's halfway point. That night, Kale reviewed his weapons. His primary tool was a quantum disruptor pistol that left no conventional evidence, disrupting the target's molecular structure at the quantum level. Backup options included nerve toxins, a molecular blade, and if necessary, his own quantum-enhanced strength and speed, all were perfectly calibrated. All had served him flawlessly in previous missions. Yet, as he prepared for sleep, a mere 4 hours was all his enhanced physiology required. Kyle experienced something unusual. A momentary hesitation. A fractional delay in his cognitive processes when he visualized the elimination of Professor Hayes. Kyle ran a diagnostic on his neural implants. No anomalies detected. He attributed the hesitation to tactical caution, given the unknown nature of the empathy circuit. Reasonable. Logical. Nothing more. Sleep came as it always did, instantly upon command. The Institute's reception area was designed to impress, with a grand atrium showcasing miniature quantum phenomena and artistic displays, controlled singularities, time-dilated flower blossoms, and matter in quantum superposition served as reminders of humanity's mastery over post-collapse physics. Kale stood perfectly still, his posture relaxed yet alert. His eyes, behind clear glasses that served as tactical displays, scanned continuously. The receptionist, human rather than AI, interesting, had informed him that Professor Hayes was running slightly late. 23 minutes later. Leora Hayes entered through the main doors, surrounded by a small group of students. She was laughing at something one had said, her hands moving expressively as she explained a complex concept. The students watched her with rapt attention. Kale observed clinically. Height, approximately 170 cm. Build, average, showing no signs of combat training. Demeanor, confident, engaged. Threat level based on physical attributes, minimal. Yet something about her presence commanded attention, an intangible quality that his tactical systems couldn't quantify. As the students dispersed, Hayes approached the reception desk. The receptionist nodded in Kale's direction, and Hayes turned toward him with a smile that reached her eyes. "Mr. Mercer, I presume. I'm Leora Hayes. I apologize for keeping you waiting." Kale activated his social interaction protocols, extending his hand. "The pleasure is mine, Professor. I appreciate you making time for me." Her handshake was firm, her skin warm. Kale noted these details automatically. Along with her slightly elevated heart rate and pupil dilation, standard indicators of interest or mild stress when meeting someone new. "Your proposal was intriguing," she said, leading him toward the secure research wings. "Though I must admit, I haven't heard of your research group before." A test. Kale had anticipated this. "We're relatively new. Formed after the quantum regulation reforms last year created space for independent research initiatives." Hayes nodded, apparently satisfied. As they walked, she described various projects underway at the Institute. Kyle listened attentively, searching for any mention of the empathy circuit while maintaining his cover identity. The security checkpoints were as expected: quantum ID verification, retinal scans, even a subtle quantum signature analysis that would detect certain types of concealed weapons. Kale's preparations had accounted for all of these. His weapons were stored in quantum-shielded compartments within his augmented body, undetectable by conventional security. Hayes' laboratory was impressive, a large space filled with cutting-edge quantum technology. Holographic displays showed complex equations and simulations. Quantum processors hummed quietly. And in the center, a spherical device approximately 30 centimeters in diameter pulsed with soft blue light. "This is our primary research focus," Hayes explained, gesturing toward the sphere. "A quantum neural interface designed to enhance human technology integration." Kale's implants immediately began scanning the device, not the empathy circuit, or at least, not as described in his intelligence briefing. This appeared to be a standard neural interface, albeit more advanced than most. "Fascinating," he said, maintaining his cover. "And what practical applications do you envision?" Hayes studied him for a moment before answering. "Currently, most human quantum interfaces are one-directional. Humans direct quantum technology. But the technology doesn't truly understand human needs or intentions. We're trying to create a more symbiotic relationship." A plausible explanation, but Kale detected subtle indicators of deception, micro-expressions, slight vocal stress patterns. She was hiding something. May I? He asked, gesturing toward the device. Of course. Hayes activated a holographic display showing the internal components. The core functions through quantum entanglement with specialized neural receptors. In theory, it could facilitate a deeper connection between human consciousness and quantum systems. As Cale examined the display, his tactical assessment updated. The device matched some characteristics of the rumored empathy circuit, but lacked key components mentioned in the intelligence briefing. Either the intelligence was flawed, or this was a decoy. Your work is impressive, Professor Hayes, he said, carefully modulating his tone to express professional admiration. I'd be interested in discussing potential collaboration, perhaps over dinner this evening. The invitation was calculated, a standard approach technique that would allow him to continue surveillance outside the Institute's security perimeter. Hayes hesitated, then smiled. I'd like that. Mr. Mercer, there's a place near the Central Plaza, Nova's Garden. Meet me there at 19 CU. I look forward to it. As he left the Institute, Cale's tactical systems began plotting multiple scenarios for the evening's interaction. The mission parameters remained unchanged. Confirm the existence of the empathy circuit, then eliminate Hayes. Yet something felt different about this mission, something he couldn't quite identify. He dismissed the thought, 48 hours remaining. Nova's Garden occupied the 20th floor of a neoclassical tower overlooking Central Plaza. Quantum-grown plants from across the colonized planets created an atmosphere of exotic luxury, while privacy fields ensured conversations remained confidential. It was the kind of establishment frequented by Neo-Arcadia's intellectual and political elite. Cale arrived precisely at 1855, selecting a table with optimal sightlines and proximity to emergency exits. He wore civilian attire, expensive enough to blend with the clientele, but unremarkable enough to be forgettable. Hayes arrived at 1903, wearing a deep blue dress that complemented her olive skin. She moved with quiet confidence through the restaurant, nodding occasionally to acquaintances. Cale noted every interaction, every potential connection or ally. I hope I haven't kept you waiting, she said as she sat across from him. Not at all, Cale replied, activating his social protocol's more sophisticated conversational modules. I've been enjoying the view. Neo-Arcadia is quite remarkable at night. It is, isn't it? Though I sometimes miss the night sky on Earth before the collapse, when you could see the stars without quantum atmospheric distortions. An interesting opening. Personal rather than professional. Cale adjusted his approach accordingly. You were born on Earth, then? Yes, just outside what was once called Boston. My family relocated to Olympus 7 when I was 19, just after the collapse. And you, Mr. Mercer? Where do you call home? A standard question. Yet it momentarily disrupted Cale's cognitive processes. Home was a concept without relevance to him. He had quarters at Alliance headquarters, temporary residences during missions, but nothing that corresponded to the emotional concept of home. I travel frequently for work, he said smoothly. Home is wherever the research takes me. Their conversation continued through dinner, moving between professional topics and more personal exchanges. Hayes spoke passionately about her work, about the potential for quantum technology to enhance rather than replace human experience. Cale maintained his cover identity while extracting valuable intelligence, noting her associates, her perspectives on Alliance policies, any hint of the true nature of her research. You know, Hayes said after their meal was complete, you're not what I expected, Mr. Mercer. Oh, and what did you expect? Someone more conventional. Alliance-affiliated researchers tend to have a certain perspective on quantum human integration. Very efficiency-focused, very practical. Cale detected the subtle probe in her words. And you find my perspective different? You ask questions others don't. You seem interested in the why, not just the how. She leaned forward slightly. Tell me, what do you truly hope to achieve with your research? The question triggered a cascade of unexpected cognitive responses in Cale's neural network. What did he hope to achieve? He had objectives, mission parameters, performance metrics. But hopes, those belonged to humans, not to weapons. Before he could formulate an appropriate response, Hayes continued. I apologize if that's too philosophical for dinner conversation. Professional hazard, I tend to dive into the deep questions. Not at all. Cale recovered smoothly. I believe quantum technology should serve humanity's highest potential. Like any tool, its value lies in how we use it. Hayes nodded, a slight smile playing at her lips. Precisely. And what is humanity's highest potential, I wonder? The evening continued with this subtle dance of ideas, Hayes seemingly testing his responses, Cale maintaining his cover while gathering intelligence. When they finally parted, Hayes extended her hand. I've enjoyed our conversation. Kyle, perhaps we could continue it tomorrow. I'd like to show you some of our more specialized research projects. I'd like that, Cale replied, taking her hand. The physical contact triggered his tactical systems to analyze her vital signs: elevated heart rate, slightly increased body temperature, indicators of either attraction or anxiety, possibly both. As he returned to his temporary quarters, Cale reviewed the evening's exchange. Hayes was intelligent, perceptive, potentially suspicious of his identity. Yet she had offered further access to her research. Either she truly believed his cover, or she was playing a deeper game. Either way, the mission progressed according to parameters. Tomorrow he would identify the empathy circuit and complete his objective. Yet as Cale initiated his sleep cycle, an unexpected image persisted in his consciousness. Hayes's eyes when she spoke of humanity's potential, alight with something his analytical systems struggled to classify. Something that, despite all logic, he found himself wanting to understand. The following morning, Cale awoke to an alert from his surveillance systems. Hayes had not gone to the institute, but instead had traveled to the lower districts of Neo-Arcadia, the quantum slums where technology was outdated and Alliance presence minimal. Interesting, potentially suspicious. Cale activated his combat systems and followed, maintaining optimal surveillance distance. Hayes moved purposefully through the crowded streets, eventually entering a small medical clinic with a faded sign, Quantum Displacement Syndrome Treatment Center. Quantum Displacement Syndrome, or QDS, was a common affliction among those exposed to unshielded quantum technology. It caused neurological deterioration, perceptual distortions, and eventually, complete psychotic break. The condition was treatable but expensive, leaving most sufferers in the lower districts to manage with substandard care. Cale's tactical assessment updated, Hayes potentially distributing unauthorized medical technology. Alliance regulations strictly controlled quantum medical equipment. This could provide additional leverage for the mission if needed. He established a surveillance position across from the clinic, his ocular implant zooming to capture Hayes through the windows. She moved among the patients with a familiarity that suggested routine visits, speaking with doctors and patients alike. After approximately 2 hours, Hayes emerged with a young woman, early 20s, showing moderate QDS symptoms based on her movement patterns. They walked together to a small apartment building nearby, where Hayes helped the woman inside. Cale followed, accessing the building's primitive security system through his neural interface. He located Hayes in an apartment on the 4th floor, conversing with the young woman and an older man who appeared severely affected by QDS. Their conversation was difficult to monitor through standard surveillance techniques, but Cale's enhanced hearing captured fragments. Making progress with the new calibration. Hayes was saying, "A difference is remarkable," the older man replied, his voice trembling with QDS tremors. "Still not a permanent solution, but," Hayes continued, "more than the Alliance ever did for us." The young woman said bitterly. The exchange continued for another 37 minutes before Hayes left. Rather than returning to the institute, she visited 2 more locations in the quantum slums, another clinic and what appeared to be an unauthorized research facility hidden inside an abandoned warehouse. Kale's mission parameters had not accounted for these activities. Hayes's file had contained no mention of work in the lower districts or unauthorized medical research. This added complexity, but didn't change the fundamental objective. As Hayes finally headed toward the institute in the late afternoon, Kale preceded her, arriving early for their scheduled meeting. His tactical systems had compiled the new data and adjusted his approach accordingly. He would use Hayes's unauthorized activities as leverage if necessary. When she arrived 43 minutes later than scheduled, Hayes appeared momentarily surprised to see him waiting. "Mr. Mercer, I apologize for the delay. An unexpected situation required my attention." "No apology necessary," Kale replied smoothly. "I hope everything is resolved satisfactorily." A flash of something, suspicion, concern, crossed her features before she smiled. "Yes, just a minor research complication. Shall we continue our tour? I promise to show you some of our specialized projects." Hayes led him deeper into the institute than before, past multiple security checkpoints into areas marked for authorized personnel only. Kale noted the increasing security measures, quantum signature scanners, consciousness pattern analyzers, even temporal distortion detectors that would identify quantum displacement technology. His implants adapted to each security layer, mimicking expected signatures and patterns. Hayes occasionally glanced at him as they passed through security, her expression unreadable. Finally, they reached a reinforced door at the end of a long corridor. Hayes placed her palm on a scanner, then looked directly into a retinal verification system. Voice authorization, Leora Hayes, Project Director. Access Protocol, Empathy Omega 7. Kale's neural systems flashed alert. Empathy Omega 7. A direct reference to the rumored empathy circuit. His combat readiness subroutines activated automatically, preparing his systems for immediate action if necessary. The door slid open, revealing a small circular room dominated by a central platform. On it rested a device unlike any Kale had seen before. A crystalline structure approximately 50 centimeters tall, pulsing with soft blue light that seemed to flow like liquid through transparent quantum circuitry. "This," Hayes said quietly, "is what I really wanted to show you." Kale's tactical system scanned the device, comparing it to known quantum technologies. No match found. This was something new, something outside Alliance databases. "What am I looking at, Professor Hayes?" he asked, voice carefully neutral. "The future of human quantum integration," she replied, approaching the device. "Or perhaps a return to our past, a reminder of what makes us human in an increasingly technological universe." She touched a control panel, and the blue light intensified. The Human Alliance believes that emotion is inefficient, that perfect logical processing is the ideal. They've been systematically removing emotional capacity from their operatives, creating perfect instruments of policy enforcement. Kale's combat systems elevated to ready status. Hayes was directly referencing quantum assassins, suggesting she knew exactly what he was. "That sounds like Alliance conspiracy theory," he said calmly, moving to position himself between Hayes and the exit. "Interesting speculation, but hardly practical reality." Hayes turned to face him fully, her green eyes steady. "Isn't it, Kale? Or should I call you Digital Emperor Kale, primary quantum operative of the Human Alliance Special Directives Division? Mission compromise detected. Primary protocol activated. Eliminate target, secure technology, extract." Yet Kale hesitated, his hand not moving toward his concealed weapons. "How long have you known?" "Since before you arrived on Olympus 7, Hayes said simply. "The empathy circuit detects quantum signatures associated with emotion suppression technology. Your arrival created quite a distinctive signal." "Then why allow me to get this close? Why reveal your technology knowing I'm here to eliminate you?" Hayes smiled sadly. "Because I wanted you to see it for yourself, to understand what's been taken from you, and perhaps to make a different choice." She gestured toward the crystalline device. "This isn't a weapon against quantum assassins, Kale. It's a restoration device. It doesn't disable you. It reminds you of who you were before the Alliance transformed you into a living weapon. Kale's tactical systems labeled this as manipulation, a delay tactic. Yet something about Hayes's words created unusual patterns in his neural processes, like echoes of deleted data trying to reassert itself. You've been performing unauthorized experiments in the lower districts, he said, redirecting the conversation to maintain tactical advantage. Treating QDS patients with unregistered technology. Yes, because the Alliance restricts treatment to those who can afford it or provide value to their agenda. I believe everyone deserves care, regardless of their economic utility. The Alliance maintains those restrictions to prevent dangerous technology proliferation. Is that what they told you? Hayes asked gently. Or is that what your programming compels you to believe? The question created a momentary processing conflict in Kale's neural network. He had never considered the distinction. Hayes continued. The people I treat were abandoned by the Alliance, considered acceptable casualties of technological progress, just as your humanity was considered an acceptable sacrifice to create the perfect assassin. You speak as if I've lost something valuable, Kale replied, his voice still even. Emotion is inefficient. It clouds judgment, removes objectivity. Emotion is the foundation of human decision-making. Even the most logical choices are guided by values, and values are inherently emotional constructs. Hayes took a step closer to him. Without emotion, there is no meaning, no purpose beyond function. I have purpose, Kale stated. I have function. Is that enough? Is being a weapon all you want from existence? Want? Another concept that had no place in his operational parameters. Yet the question triggered something deep within his neural architecture, a ghost of response that his Alliance programming couldn't quite suppress. Hayes must have seen something change in his expression, because she pressed forward. The Alliance didn't create your abilities, Kale. They took someone with natural quantum affinity, someone special, and stripped away everything that made them human except the talents they could weaponize. She gestured toward the empathy circuit. This device can restore what they took from you. Not all at once, that would be too traumatic. But gradually, safely. Kale's hand finally moved toward his concealed quantum disruptor. You're attempting to compromise an Alliance operative. That's treason under Article 7 of the Unified Security Protocols. I'm attempting to save a human being, Hayes corrected gently. And I'm offering you a choice that the Alliance never did. As his fingers touched the weapon, Kale experienced something unprecedented. A cascade failure in his emotional suppression systems. Images flashed through his consciousness. A childhood on a colony world. Parents whose faces were blurred by Alliance memory alteration. The pain of transformation into what he was now. The memories weren't fully accessible, merely fragments breaking through damaged neural pathways. But they were enough to make him hesitate. Hayes watched him, not with fear, but with compassion. You don't have to complete this mission, Kale. You can choose differently. The Alliance will send others if I fail, he said, voice suddenly less certain than it had ever been. Yes, but you will have made a choice. Your first true choice since they took your humanity from you. The quantum disruptor was now in his hand, aimed directly at Hayes's heart. One neural command would activate it, completing his mission with perfect efficiency. Hayes didn't flinch. If you're going to kill me, I'd at least like to know why. Not the Alliance's reason, your reason. Why do you believe I should die? The question created a critical logical loop in Kale's programming. He had never considered personal reasons for his missions. He executed Alliance directives. That was his function. But Hayes was asking for his reason. And for the first time in 15 years of service, Kale realized he didn't have one. The word came out uncertainly, a tone he had never heard from himself before. Yes, Hayes encouraged gently. I don't have a reason, he finally said. The admission felt like quantum displacement, disorienting, nauseating, yet somehow freeing. I have orders. And if your orders conflict with what's right? Right is subjective. Efficiency is measurable. Is efficient evil preferable to inefficient good? Hayes asked. Another loop. Another cascade of fractured memories. Another neural pathway opening where there had been only programmed responses before. Kale lowered the weapon slowly. What happens if I don't complete this mission? Hayes smiled, relief evident in her expression. Then we talk. About who you were, about who you might become, about how to protect ourselves from those the Alliance will send after both of us now. They'll consider me compromised, a rogue asset to be eliminated. Yes, but you'll be making that decision as yourself, not as their weapon. Kale holstered the quantum disruptor, feeling strangely vulnerable without the clear directive of his mission parameters. I don't know who myself is anymore. Then that's where we begin, Hayes said, extending her hand. Not as target and assassin, but as two people facing a common threat. After a moment's hesitation, Kale took her offered hand. The simple human contact sent strange signals through his neural network. Not the tactical analysis of before, but something warmer. Something his systems labeled simultaneously as unfamiliar and as deeply known. It felt, he realized with shock, like coming home. Bard. The next 24 hours passed in a blur of activity. Having made his decision, Kale's tactical expertise now focused on a new objective, ensuring their survival against the Alliance response that would inevitably come. Hayes, Leora, as she asked him to call her, brought him to her true research facility, hidden beneath an abandoned quantum processing center in the lower districts. Here, the real empathy circuit hummed with purpose, surrounded by quantum technology that bore little resemblance to Alliance-approved designs. Most of this comes from independent research, Leora explained as she prepared the circuit for a controlled exposure. Scientists who disagreed with Alliance restrictions, engineers who believed technology should serve humanity rather than control it. The Alliance labels such researchers as extremists, Kale noted, his perspective shifting even as he spoke. The Alliance labels anyone who challenges their authority as extremists, Leora corrected. Their primary goal isn't human advancement, it's control. Zin, Leora's robot assistant, hovered nearby, monitoring Kale's neural patterns as the empathy circuit was calibrated. Professor, his neural suppression architecture is more complex than our previous subjects. Multiple redundant systems, quantum-level blocks on emotional processing centers. Can you work around them? Leora asked. Yes, but it will require precise calibration. Too much emotional restoration at once could cause neural shock. Kale listened to this clinical discussion of his modified brain with strange detachment. Previous subjects? You've done this before? Leora nodded. You're not the first quantum operative to question their programming, Kale. Just the highest-ranking one to do so. This was unexpected information. There are others? A small group. They help with our work when they can, though most have gone into deep cover to avoid Alliance detection. The implications were significant, not just a single scientist with controversial research, but an organized resistance with multiple defected operatives. The Alliance's intelligence failure was more substantial than Kale had imagined. Are you ready to begin? Leora asked, gesturing toward a reclined chair positioned near the empathy circuit. Kale hesitated. What exactly will happen? The circuit will establish a quantum connection with your neural implants, gradually bypassing the emotional suppression systems. We'll start with basic emotional recognition, then progress to more complex emotional experiences as your brain adapts. Will I remain functional? Leora understood the real question. Your tactical abilities, your training, your enhanced physical capabilities, those will remain intact. We're not removing anything. Kyle, we're restoring what was taken. Kale nodded and took his position in the chair. As Zin attached monitoring devices to his temples, he felt an unfamiliar sensation in his chest, a tightness, an acceleration of his heart rate not associated with combat readiness. You're experiencing anxiety, Leora said gently, noticing his discomfort. It's normal. Your body remembers emotions even if your conscious mind doesn't. Initiating connection, Zin announced. The empathy circuit's blue light intensified, tendrils of luminescence reaching toward Kale like curious fingers. When the light touched him, Kyle's world exploded. Images, sensations, emotions cascaded through neural pathways long suppressed. A child's laughter, his laughter. A woman's embrace, his mother. Pain, joy, fear, love, all flooding back in fragmented bursts too intense to process. Distantly, he heard alarms, heard Leora's voice calling commands, felt his body convulsing against restraints he hadn't noticed before. Then, darkness claimed him. When Kale regained consciousness, the first thing he noticed was moisture on his face. He reached up, touched his cheek, and examined the wetness on his fingers with confusion. Tears, Leora said softly from beside him. Your body remembers how to cry, even if you don't. Kale felt strange. His neural processes seemed both sharper and less focused simultaneously. Tactical systems still functioned, still provided threat assessments and environmental analysis. But now they competed with other signals, impressions, reactions, feelings that had no tactical value yet demanded attention. What happened? His voice sounded different to his own ears, less mechanical, more textured. Neural cascade, Leora explained. Your emotional suppression systems were more deeply integrated than we anticipated. When the circuit bypassed them, the emotional feedback was too intense. She paused. I'm sorry. We should have been more careful. Sorry. The concept registered differently now, not just as a social convention or strategic concession, but as genuine regret for causing distress. He could feel the sincerity in her words, could recognize the emotion behind them. How long was I unconscious? About 3 hours. How do you feel? The question seemed impossibly complex. How did he feel? Physically? Cognitively? Emotionally? All three demanded analysis simultaneously. Overwhelmed, he finally said, the word feeling inadequate yet accurate. Like I'm experiencing everything for the first time. Leora nodded. Your emotional processing centers are active again, but without the neural pathways that normally develop through years of emotional experience, you're essentially feeling emotions with the regulatory capacity of a child, but the intensity of an adult. Will it always be this chaotic? No. Your brain will adapt, create new pathways. It will become more manageable. She touched his hand gently. But we don't have much time for adjustment. The Alliance will have detected your missed check-in by now. Standard protocol gives a 24-hour window before they send retrieval teams. Kale's tactical systems engaged automatically at the threat assessment, providing options, scenarios, probabilities. But now these calculations carried emotional weight, concern for Leora's safety, anger at the Alliance's manipulation, fear of capture, and reprogramming. We need to move, he said, sitting up despite the disorientation. My neural implants contain tracking technology that activates if I miss 2 consecutive check-ins. Already handled, Leora said, surprising him. Zin implemented a quantum signature masking protocol while you were unconscious. To Alliance tracking systems, you appear to be in the upper districts, moving normally. Kale reassessed Leora and her operation. She had clearly prepared extensively for this scenario, far more than a simple scientist should have been capable of. You've been planning this for some time, he observed. Years, she acknowledged. Ever since I discovered what the Alliance was doing to people like you, creating living weapons without consent, without choice. What's your endgame? Kale asked, his strategic mind still functioning despite the emotional turmoil. You can't hope to defeat the Alliance directly. Not directly. No. But information can do what weapons cannot. Leora gestured toward a quantum communication array in the corner of the lab. We've been gathering evidence of Alliance corruption, of unauthorized human experimentation, of political assassinations disguised as accidents or natural deaths. With your help, with the testimony of their top operative, we can expose the truth. To what end? The Alliance controls all major communication networks, all quantum transmission hubs. Not all. Leora smiled. There are independent networks, built by those who foresaw the Alliance's centralization of power, limited reach, but enough to spread the truth to key locations. Kale considered this. His tactical assessment suggested the plan had merit, though success probability was low. Yet something beyond tactical calculation now influenced his thinking, a sense of rightness, of justice, that had no place in pure strategic analysis. "I'll help you," he said, the decision feeling both strange and inevitable. "But first, we need to secure this facility against immediate threat. Alliance retrieval teams will deploy in..." He checked his internal chronometer. "Approximately 17 hours. "Then we have work to do," Leora said, extending her hand to help him stand. As Kale took her hand, the simple human contact sent another cascade of emotional responses through his newly awakened neural pathways. Gratitude. Trust. Something deeper he couldn't yet name. For the first time in 15 years, Kale was making choices based on more than efficiency and mission parameters. He was choosing based on what felt right, and that made all the difference. General Merrick of the Human Alliance Special Directives Division stared at the holographic display with growing fury. The tracking signature for Operative Kale showed normal movement patterns, yet the mission completion signal had not been received, and the operative had missed 2 scheduled check-ins. Analysis, he demanded of the quantum AI that managed operative oversight. Probability of operative compromise, 78.3%. The AI responded in its emotionless voice. Probability of target haze implementing countermeasures, 92.7%. Recommendation, deploy retrieval team alpha, with termination authorization for both target and operative. Merrick nodded. Haze had proven more dangerous than anticipated. Her empathy circuit technology represented a fundamental threat to the Alliance's quantum operative program. If operatives could have their emotional suppression reversed, years of careful conditioning could be undone. "Prepare full tactical deployment," he ordered. "I want haze eliminated and all research data secured. Priority Alpha 1. "And Operative Kale?" the AI inquired. Merrick hesitated only briefly. Kale had been their most effective asset for 15 years. His loss would be significant. But protocol was clear regarding compromised operatives. Standard retrieval protocols. If recovery is impossible, terminate. "Understood. General. Deployment in progress. Estimated arrival at Olympus 7, 14 hours. Merrick turned away from the display, his expression grim. The Alliance could not afford to lose control of its quantum operatives. The political stability of the post-collapse worlds depended on the absolute loyalty of these living weapons. Hayes and her empathy circuit had to be eliminated, no matter the cost. In the hidden laboratory beneath Neo Arcadia's quantum slums, Kale and Leora worked frantically to prepare their defense and their revelation to the worlds. Zin hovered between workstations, coordinating their efforts while monitoring Alliance communication channels for any sign of approaching threat. Kale had adapted quickly to his partially restored emotional capacity, his enhanced neural systems integrating the new inputs with remarkable efficiency. The overwhelming chaos of initial activation had settled into a more manageable flow, emotions present but no longer debilitating. "The quantum communication array is ready," Leora announced, making final adjustments to the complex machinery. "Once we upload the evidence package, it will transmit simultaneously to 17 independent networks across 7 worlds." Kale nodded, his fingers moving across the holographic interface as he compiled tactical data from his 15 years as an Alliance operative. Mission logs, target profiles, authorization codes. All evidence of the Alliance's systematic elimination of political dissidents and scientific competitors. "The Alliance will deny everything," he noted. "Claim the evidence is fabricated. Some will believe them." Leora agreed. "But not everyone. And once doubt exists, it spreads. We don't need to destroy the Alliance overnight. We just need to create enough resistance that they can't operate with impunity." A flash of admiration, another newly recovered emotion, surged through Kale's consciousness. Leora's strategic thinking rivaled that of Alliance generals, yet was guided by principles they would consider irrelevant: compassion, justice, human dignity. Professor, Zin interrupted, his metallic body pulsing with alert patterns. I've detected quantum displacement signatures approaching Olympus 7. Alliance retrieval team configuration. Estimated arrival in 43 minutes. Kale's combat systems activated automatically. Sooner than expected, they must have authorized emergency quantum displacement protocols. Will they be able to locate us? Leora asked, concern evident in her voice. Eventually, Kale confirmed. Standard procedure is to triangulate the last known position, then deploy quantum resonance scanners to detect the operative's neural signature. He paused. My neural signature? The masking protocol should buy us some time, Leora said, turning back to the communication array with renewed urgency. But we need to complete the transmission before they break through. As they worked, Kale found himself watching Leora, not with the clinical assessment of a tactical system, but with genuine curiosity. She moved with purpose and confidence, her hands steady despite the looming threat. She had known what she was risking by opposing the Alliance, yet had chosen this path anyway. Why? The question formed in his mind not as a tactical analysis, but as a desire to understand her motivation, her passion. Leora, he said, the use of her first name still feeling strange on his tongue. Why did you develop the empathy circuit? You must have known the Alliance would consider it a threat. She paused in her work, considering the question. Because I still believe, that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our efficiency. It's our capacity for connection, for empathy, for seeing ourselves in others. She met his gaze directly. When the Alliance began turning people into weapons, stripping away their humanity in the name of progress, I couldn't stand by and watch, even knowing the risk to yourself. Some principles are worth the risk. Kale. She smiled slightly. Besides, I never planned to face them alone. I always hoped to find allies, people like you, who could remember their humanity when given the chance. The simplicity and sincerity of her answer resonated through Kale's newly awakened emotional centers. Worth the risk. Principles. Concepts that had no place in Alliance tactical doctrine, yet somehow felt fundamentally right. Their moment of connection was interrupted by a priority alert from Zin. Multiple quantum signatures detected in the upper districts. The retrieval team has arrived and is deploying quantum resonance scanners. Kale's tactical systems provided an immediate assessment. We have 27 minutes at most before they locate this facility. He turned to Leora. The evidence package, is it ready? Final compilation now, 89% complete. And the empathy circuit? They can't be allowed to capture it. Leora nodded grimly. I've prepared a quantum collapse sequence. If they breach the laboratory, the circuit will be reduced to its component atoms. They'll find nothing useful. Kale moved to a weapons locker, retrieving his quantum disruptor and additional tactical equipment. The familiar weight of the weapon felt different now. Not merely a tool, but a responsibility. A choice to use lethal force. I'll defend the outer perimeter, he stated, tactical systems already mapping defensive positions. Buy you as much time as possible to complete the transmission. Leora looked up from her work, concern evident in her expression. These are your former colleagues, Kyle. People like you. People who still serve the Alliance without question, he replied. Though her concern registered on an emotional level, he was still learning to process. They'll show no hesitation in eliminating both of us. I know, she said quietly. Just be careful. Another new emotion flickered through Kale's consciousness. Warmth at her concern for his safety. At the realization that she saw him as a person to protect, not merely an asset to utilize. I will, he promised, the words carrying more weight than any mission acknowledgement he'd ever given. As Kale moved toward the laboratory entrance, Zin approached, extending a small device. A quantum phase disruptor, the robot explained. It will temporarily disable the neural suppression systems of Alliance operatives without causing permanent damage. Professor Hayes designed it based on the empathy circuit principles. Kale took the device, understanding its significance, A non-lethal option. A chance to free others as he had been freed. "Thank you," he said, attaching the device to his tactical harness. Zin's optical sensors flickered in what Kale now recognized as the robot's version of acknowledgement. "The professor believes everyone deserves a choice, Kale, even those who currently serve the Alliance." With a nod, Kale moved into position at the facility's main entrance. His tactical systems continued to provide combat assessments, probability calculations, optimal firing positions. But now these were tempered by something new: compassion. Restraint. The understanding that the operatives coming for them were not merely enemies, but victims of the same system that had used him. As he prepared for the coming confrontation, Kale realized he was no longer the digital emperor, the Alliance's perfect weapon, nor was he fully the person he had been before their manipulation. He was something new, someone who could feel the weight of taking a life, yet still had the skills to do so, if necessary. Someone who could make choices based on more than efficiency and orders. Someone who had rediscovered what it meant to be human. Why? The first warning came as a subtle vibration through the facility's walls, the distinctive resonance of quantum scanning technology searching for neural signatures. Kale's tactical systems immediately calculated the scanner's range and effectiveness, providing a countdown to detection. 12 minutes, he informed Leora through their secure communication link. Status of the transmission? 94% compiled, she replied, her voice tense but controlled. We need at least 15 minutes to complete and verify transmission. Kale processed this information. Tactical and emotional systems now working in concert. I'll create a diversion. My neural signature is what they're tracking. If I move to the surface, they'll follow. That's too dangerous. Leora objected immediately. They'll have at least 6 operatives, all with orders to terminate. 7 operatives, Kale corrected, his enhanced senses detecting the distinctive energy patterns of quantum combat systems. And yes, the risk is significant, but tactically sound given our objectives. He could sense her hesitation through the communication link, could almost feel her concern. Another new experience, understanding the emotional subtext beneath the words. I've transmitted the access codes to disable their neural suppression remotely. Leora finally said, if you can get within 3 meters of an operative, the quantum phase disruptor will work. You might be able to turn some of them. Understood. Kale checked his weapons one final time. Complete the transmission, Leora. Whatever happens, the truth needs to reach the worlds. Kale. She paused, and he could hear the complex emotions in that single word. Concern, gratitude, something deeper. Thank you for choosing differently. The simple acknowledgement of his choice, his humanity, strengthened his resolve more than any Alliance combat stimulant ever had. I'll see you soon, he promised, then moved swiftly toward the surface exit points. The quantum slums were eerily quiet as Kale emerged from the hidden facility. The locals had sensed the danger. The presence of Alliance operatives always created a distinctive atmosphere of fear and avoidance. Streets emptied, doors locked, eyes turned away. Kale activated his full combat systems, enhanced senses scanning for approach vectors. The Alliance team would be methodical, establishing a perimeter before closing in, standard retrieval protocol. He spotted the first operative on a rooftop 2 blocks away. A sniper position, obvious to his trained perception. The operative's quantum-enhanced vision would be scanning for neural signatures matching Kale's profile. Time to provide exactly what they were looking for. Kale disabled his quantum signature masking for precisely 3 seconds, long enough to register on Alliance scanners, short enough to prevent precise triangulation. Then he moved, using his enhanced speed to change position before they could lock onto him. The response was immediate. Quantum communication signals flashed between Alliance operatives, visible to Kale's enhanced perception as brief distortions in the visual spectrum. They had detected him and were converging on his position. Perfect. Kale led them on a calculated chase through the quantum slums, always staying just ahead, always drawing them further from Leora's hidden laboratory. His tactical systems tracked each operative's position, calculating optimal moments to expose himself just enough to maintain pursuit without allowing them to close the distance. 7 minutes had passed. Leora needed 8 more. The pursuit changed pattern. The operatives were splitting up, attempting to surround him. A logical tactic against a single target. Kale adjusted his approach, selecting one operative who had separated from the others. Female. Designation visible to his enhanced vision as Operative Tara, equipped with standard quantum combat systems. Kale positioned himself in an abandoned building, calculating her approach vector. When she entered, moving with the same mechanical precision that had once defined his own movements, he activated the quantum phase disruptor. The effect was immediate. Tara stumbled, her hands going to her head as the device disrupted her neural suppression systems. Her movements became erratic, her breathing irregular, signs of emotional processing suddenly reactivated without preparation. Kale approached cautiously, hands visible, quantum disruptor holstered. Tara, listen to me. The Alliance has lied to you. They've suppressed your emotions, your humanity, to turn you into a weapon. Her eyes, previously cold and focused, now showed confusion, pain, and the first flickers of something else. Recognition. Not of him specifically, but of the truth in his words. What's happening to me? Her voice shook, another sign that the neural suppression was failing. You're remembering who you are, Kale said simply. Beyond the operative, beyond the mission parameters. The person you were before the Alliance took your choices away. Tara's hand moved toward her weapon, then stopped, trembling. Conflict played across her features. Programming versus emerging emotion. The Alliance will send others if you fail, she recited, the words, mechanical, rehearsed. Yes, Kale acknowledged, echoing Leora's words to him. But you will have made a choice. Your first true choice since they took your humanity from you. Something shifted in Tara's expression, a moment of clarity amidst the confusion. I remember things. A home. People who loved me. Those memories are real. The Alliance tried to erase them, but they couldn't completely, not without destroying the abilities they wanted to use. Tara looked at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. How many have I killed without questioning? That isn't your fault, Kale said firmly, recognizing the guilt that would come with awakening. The Alliance used us both, but now we have a chance to choose differently. Her gaze met his, more human now than minutes before. What are you doing here? What's the mission? Exposing the truth about the Alliance, about what they've done to people like us. Will you help? The moment stretched between them, fragile and critical. Then Tara nodded. Once, decisively. Yes. 1 ally gained, 6 operatives remaining, and the clock still ticking. There's a woman named Leora Hayes, Kale explained quickly. She created the technology that's helping you remember. The other operatives are still hunting for her. We need to protect her until she completes a critical transmission. Tara's training reasserted itself, but now guided by emerging emotion rather than cold Alliance directives. I can disrupt their tactical network, create confusion in their coordination systems. Do it, Kale confirmed. I'll continue the diversion. As Tara moved to a strategic position, Kale checked the mission timer. 11 minutes elapsed. 4 minutes remaining for Leora's transmission. He needed to escalate the diversion. Kale fully disabled his quantum signature masking, making himself a clear target for all remaining operatives. Then he moved to high ground, a partially collapsed tower that offered visibility across the quantum slums. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Quantum displacement signatures flashed as operatives transported to optimal attack positions surrounding his location. Energy weapons powered up, their distinctive hum audible to his enhanced hearing. Operative Kale, a voice called, General Merrick himself, coordinating the retrieval team from a secure location. You've been compromised. Submit to retrieval protocol immediately. Kale didn't respond. Instead, he activated his combat systems to maximum capacity. preparing for the confrontation that would buy Leora her final minutes. The first attack came from 3 directions simultaneously, quantum disruptors firing with perfect synchronization. Kale moved with enhanced speed, the world slowing around him as his systems pushed beyond normal limits. He dodged 2 blasts and deflected the third with a portable quantum shield. Then he counterattacked, not aiming to kill, but to disable. The quantum phase disruptor had limited range and could only affect 1 operative at a time, but combined with precise targeting of neural implant connection points, it could temporarily incapacitate 2 operatives down, 4 remaining. Your neural patterns show emotional activation. Kale. Merrick's voice continued, clinical and cold. Hayes has used her technology on you. This can be corrected upon retrieval. Corrected. The word triggered both tactical analysis and emotional response in Kale's integrated consciousness. The Alliance viewed his recovered humanity as a malfunction, his ability to choose as a flaw to be eliminated. There's nothing to correct, Merrick, he responded, maintaining his defensive position. Only truth to acknowledge. The Alliance has been lying to all of us. Sentiment, Merrick dismissed. A weakness Hayes has exploited. Submit to retrieval. Kale, this is your final warning. 3 minutes remaining. Kale launched himself from the tower as it exploded beneath him, a quantum detonation triggered by an operative he hadn't detected. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to control his fall, landing with combat efficiency on an adjacent rooftop. The remaining operatives converged, their movements perfectly coordinated, their tactics familiar to him because they were his tactics, the same training, the same programming. But now he had something they didn't, the emotional drive that came with fighting for a chosen cause rather than an assigned mission. Kale engaged the closest operative, moving inside the effective range of quantum weapons to hand combat. His opponent's movements were precise but predictable, lacking the intuitive adaptation that emotion could provide. As they fought, Kale activated the quantum phase disruptor, pressing it against the operative's neural implant access point. The effect was immediate: confusion, disorientation, the first awakening of suppressed emotional systems. Remember who you are, Kale urged, before moving to the next target. 2 minutes remaining. Across the quantum slums, Terra had successfully disrupted the Alliance tactical network. The remaining operatives were now fighting without perfect coordination, creating openings that wouldn't normally exist. Kale exploited these openings ruthlessly, not to kill, but to disable and awaken. One by one. The Alliance retrieval team faltered as their neural suppression systems were compromised. 1 minute remaining. What have you done, Kale? Merrick's voice had lost its clinical detachment, showing the first signs of genuine anger. Do you understand what Hayes' technology will do to the stability we've maintained since the collapse? I understand exactly what it will do, Kale replied, securing his position as the last operative fell, neural systems in disarray. It will remind people that stability without freedom, without choice, isn't worth the cost. The communication link went silent for a moment. Then Merrick's voice returned, now cold with fury. You've made your choice, Kale. The consequences will be significant. A new quantum signature appeared on Kale's tactical display, larger, more powerful than standard operative equipment. A direct intervention from Alliance Command. 0 minutes remaining. Leora's transmission should be complete. As if confirming his thought, his secure communication link activated. Transmission successful. Leora's voice came through, triumphant despite its tension. All 17 networks received and are broadcasting. The truth is out. Kale. Relief, another newly recovered emotion, flooded his consciousness. Get to the emergency extraction point. I'll meet you there. What about you? My sensors show a major quantum buildup in your vicinity. I'll handle it, Kyle assured her, preparing for the confrontation with Merrick. Go. Now. The quantum displacement effect was massive, temporarily distorting the visual spectrum as General Merrick materialized in the center of the quantum slums. Unlike standard operatives, Merrick had retained his emotional capacities. The Alliance leadership believed emotion was a weakness only for their weapons, not for those who wielded them. Merrick stood tall in full quantum combat armor, his silver hair and lined face visible through the transparent helmet visor. His expression showed what Kyle could now recognize as contempt. Digital Emperor. Merrick greeted him, the title now sounding like an insult. You were our greatest achievement, 15 years of perfect service. 15 years of being used, Kyle corrected, maintaining tactical distance. Of killing without question, without choice. Choice is inefficient, Merrick dismissed. The Alliance brought stability to the post-collapse worlds by removing the chaos of individual choice from critical operations. You brought tyranny disguised as stability, Kale countered. And now the worlds will know the truth. Merrick's expression hardened. Hayes's transmission, a minor inconvenience. The Alliance controls the major communication networks. Her message will reach a few fringe worlds, a few dissidents, nothing that can't be contained. You're wrong, Kale said with newfound certainty. The truth has a power of its own. People will question. They'll resist, and more operatives will remember who they were meant to be. Enough philosophy, Merrick snapped, raising his quantum disruptor, a commander-grade weapon far more powerful than standard issue. You're a failed experiment now, Kale, nothing more. As Merrick fired, Kale moved with everything his enhanced body could provide. Not just the cold efficiency of Alliance training, but the desperate drive of a person fighting for more than a mission, fighting for a future he was only beginning to imagine. The quantum blast grazed his shoulder. Molecular disruption sending waves of pain through newly sensitized neural pathways. Kale's tactical systems registered the damage while his emotional systems processed the pain. An integrated response that made him more effective, not less. He countered with precise fire from his own disruptor, targeting the weak points in Merrick's armor that only someone with insider knowledge would recognize. The general staggered as circuits overloaded, his armor's quantum stabilizers fluctuating. You can't win this, Kale, Merrick growled, regaining his stance. The Alliance has controlled the post-collapse worlds for 40 years. One rogue operative and one idealistic scientist won't change that. We already have, Kale replied, closing distance for hand-to-hand engagement. Your retrieval team is awakening to the truth. Your operatives are beginning to question, and Hayes's empathy circuit can't be uninvented. They clashed in close combat. Quantum-enhanced strength against quantum-enhanced strength. But where Merrick fought with the rigid tactics of Alliance doctrine, Kale now fought with something more, intuition guided by emotion, adaptation born of genuine will rather than programmed responses. The battle was brief but intense. When it ended, Merrick lay disarmed, his quantum armor disabled, Kyle standing over him with disruptor aimed at his head. Finish it, Merrick challenged, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. That's what you were designed to do. Kale considered the man before him, the embodiment of Alliance authority, the architect of so much suffering disguised as necessary sacrifice for stability. His tactical systems calculated the optimal response, elimination of a high-value threat. But his recovered humanity suggested a different path. No, Kale said, lowering his weapon slightly. You're going to live, Merrick. Live to see the world you built come apart as people learn the truth. Live to face the consequences of what you've done to operatives like me. Confusion crossed Merrick's features. He had expected either death or a traditional Alliance arrest protocol. Not this. Mercy tinged with justice. The Alliance will find you, Merrick warned. There's nowhere in the colonized worlds you can hide. We're not planning to hide, Kale replied, a new conviction in his voice. We're planning to build something better than what you destroyed. With precision that only a quantum assassin could achieve, Kale fired his disruptor at exactly the right power level to render Merrick unconscious without causing permanent damage. Then he secured the General's quantum communicator, a direct link to Alliance command that would prove invaluable in the days ahead. As Kale made his way to the extraction point where Leora waited, he felt the quantum displacement effect of the remaining awakened operatives leaving the area, not returning to Alliance control, but disappearing into the underground network that Hayes had established over the years. Tara approached him at the rendezvous point, her movements still somewhat unsteady as her mind adapted to restored emotional processing. "What happens now?" she asked, the question encompassing far more than their immediate tactical situation. "Now we become what the Alliance feared most," Kale answered. "People with the skills they gave us and the humanity they tried to take away." Leora was waiting at the extraction point, Zin hovering protectively nearby, the empathy circuit safely secured for transport. Her face showed relief when she saw Kale, quickly followed by concern at his injured shoulder. "You're hurt," she said, moving to examine the wound. "It's manageable," Kale assured her, experiencing yet another new emotion at her concern. A warmth that spread beyond the injury site, a connection that transcended tactical alliance. "The transmission?" he asked. Leora smiled, genuine joy illuminating her features. "Better than we hoped. The independent networks are amplifying the signal, and we're already receiving responses from 3 colonial governments demanding Alliance accountability." "And the other operatives?" "6 more have made contact through secure channels," Zin reported. "They're requesting access to the empathy circuit. It seems your example has created what humans call a cascade effect." Kale nodded, understanding the significance. Not just 1 or 2 rogue operatives, but a growing number questioning their programming, seeking the humanity that had been taken from them. "The Alliance will respond with everything they have," he cautioned, tactical systems already calculating potential scenarios. "They can't afford to let this spread." "Let them come," Leora said with quiet determination. "Every move they make now will be scrutinized. Every denial will be questioned. The truth is a quantum particle. Kyle, once observed, it changes everything." As they boarded the unmarked shuttle that would take them off-world, Kale experienced something entirely new, a sense of possibility unconstrained by mission parameters or Alliance directives. The future was uncertain, dangerous, filled with challenges he could only partially anticipate. But it was a future he had chosen, one where efficiency and protocol no longer outweighed compassion and connection, one where his skills could serve something greater than Alliance control. Leora took the seat beside him as the shuttle prepared for departure. "You know, you'll need a new designation," she said, a hint of humor in her voice. "Digital Emperor doesn't quite fit anymore." Kale considered this, feeling the strangeness and the rightness of defining himself rather than being defined by Alliance protocols. "Quantum Guardian," he suggested after a moment. "Someone who protects the connection between technology and humanity, rather than severing it." Leora smiled, the expression reaching her eyes in a way that triggered yet another new emotional response in Kale's awakening consciousness. "Quantum Guardian," she repeated, testing the name. "I like it." As the shuttle broke atmosphere, leaving the gleaming towers of Neo Arcadia behind, Kale looked toward the stars. The Alliance had taught him to see the colonized worlds as tactical objectives, as pieces on a strategic board. Now, with humanity restored, he saw them differently, as homes, as communities, as places where people deserved the freedom to choose their own futures. The mission that had brought him to Olympus 7 was technically a failure, the first failure in 15 years of perfect service. His target lived. The technology he was sent to destroy remained intact. The Alliance secrets he was programmed to protect were now spreading across the worlds. Yet as Kale felt the weight of Leora's hand on his, saw the determination in Tara's recovering humanity, sensed the possibilities that lay ahead, he understood that this failure was his first true success. The quantum assassin had found something more valuable than perfect efficiency. He had found friendship instead of fear, connection instead of control. And most importantly, he had found himself, not as the weapon the Alliance had created, but as the person he chose to become. The starfield stretched before them, countless worlds where the truth would now be heard. And among those stars, a future neither the Alliance nor their perfect assassin could have predicted. A future where humanity and technology served each other, rather than one controlling the other. A future worth fighting for. a future worth feeling for. A future worth choosing.